Good morning, CLC. I invite you now, in this moment, to just take in a nice, deep, cleansing breath, breathing in all the love and light around you. And as you release that breath, release all tension that you may be holding in your body. Any doubt or stress, just let it go for now. And if you feel so inclined, go ahead and take another nice, deep, cleansing breath, breathing in the cool, calming oxygen that's around you. And as you release this breath, allow your body to just relax in this moment. And allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept. Knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me, I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in the room with me this morning. I turn toward that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in the room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
I have a couple of points to make today. They're kind of two separate points, but we'll make them work. We'll braid them together somehow. But before doing so, I want to just mention, two things. Okay, I'm stacking up in my head. Do you ever do that like the old typewriters where you hit too many keys at once and all the... Yeah, okay. We have a number of new people in the room this morning. Normally we give out visitor packs. I forgot to print them this week, so there aren't any. So you're going to have to come back next week to know anything at all about us. Okay, it's all a big mystery until you come back and get a visitor pack. I wanted to mention 3 people, not to be morbid or anything, but 3 people have recently passed away in the last... 2 of them in the last week, and 1 of them I just found out about, and it was back on the 1st of May. And they all touched this center and its life in some way. Two of them were famous, and 1 of them wasn't. And the 3 are, in no particular order, George Winston, the musician. We have played his music in this center since day 1, because he was recording for Windham Hill about 1980, and we started here as a study group in 83, and so his first on vinyl, and then cassettes, and then CDs. Jeffrey has played some of his stuff, and if you're not familiar with his work, check it out, because it's beautiful, heartfelt piano music. And it's kind of funny because he started out as a guitarist, and they wanted to record him as that, and he said, I'd rather play piano. And his piano work is just stunning. So that's George Winston. The second is Rabbi Harold Kushner, who wrote When Bad Things Happen to Good People, which was one of the big works of self-help or self-transformation that bridged metaphysics into the sort of mainstream religious community. He was a rabbi, of course, and it was the idea here was that we lived more or less in a universe that of free will, and not moved around like pawns on a chessboard. And so his work has been quoted in our material in our classes for a very long time. And the third is Reverend Dr. Noel McGinnis, who passed on the 1st of May. And he was a classmate of mine in the School of Ministry, class of 86. And he spoke here. He did workshops here. He led us in a spoon-bending workshop when Uri Geller was on The Tonight Show. I kid you not. And we actually bent spoons. And these were not cheap, dime store kind of spoons. These were like, but seriously, whenever you hear me refer to these talks I give as encouragements, I got that line from him. He made that up. Whenever you hear us refer to each other as godlings, I think he coined that too. He was a brilliant original thinker, Noel McInnes, and so he's been retired for years. He was, I think, 90 or so when he passed, but Godspeed to him. So anyway, I just needed to say that, and now, what we're going to do is kind of wrap up the series that's based on the works, drawn from the works of W. Frederic Keeler and H. Francis Lord. Next week being Father's Day, it'll be a Father's Day talk, and the week after that, Reverend David Dewhurst is going to speak on we don't know what yet. He's keeping it very close to the vest. So today is on this. Begin anywhere and do it today. Begin anywhere and do it today. These two spiritual teachers whose works we're considering this month, and every spiritual teacher of every tradition that you've ever heard has said, enough theory, now practice. Enough theory. You have what you need. You know enough to go forward. All the time we're saying, well, you know, I really could use some more information here. Like, before I trust this situation, how is it going to work out? Not a soul knows how it's going to work out. Your higher power doesn't know how it's going to work out. Why? Because there are all sorts of variables in the process. You could change your mind, and you probably will. Other people will come in, and they'll influence your thinking. Conditions and circumstances will change. The earth will turn on its axis. Day will turn to night and back again, and so on. Nobody knows that thing. So if you wait to know how this is going to work out, you never do anything. You never move forward. And I'll introduce the second thing today is that in this month's Science Mind magazine, which is if you had a visitor's pack today, there'd be one in it. Okay, those of you can go to our bookstore and get a free one. You can today only. Today only. And you must prove that you were in the service. We'll stamp your hand on the way out. So that you're not just some random person who's dropped in to scam a free mag. No. Anyway, in this month's Science Mind magazine, which has been published by our organization for nearly 100 years now, as a matter of fact, let me say that it's the oldest religious periodical in the United States in continuous publication by the same outfit. Isn't that cool? Anyway, I'm not here to sell you magazines, except I write for it, so I kind of am. But this month's issue's on self-care. On self-care. Self-care is very important. And as with anything else, begin anywhere with it and do it today. Self-care, taking care of yourself. Taking care of yourself in the ways that you know to, like diet and exercise and sleep and, you know, these kinds of things. And then self-care in the ways that might not have occurred to you to do it. Like filling your head with constructive thoughts. Filling your heart with forgiveness and openness and trust, and doing it today. Having forgiveness and openness and trust before anybody else has changed. Very often we wait for them to change. Well, I'll forgive you when you change. Well, sometimes they don't change, and I'm not saying if they don't change you have to keep them around doing whatever it was that was bothersome to you, troubling to you. But I am saying let go of your side of the, well, kind of your end of the string, you know, in your heart. Let go of that. Let go of that. Anyone can change. Anyone can change. Anyone can change. That's self-care. Because otherwise, you sort of torture yourself with thoughts. You lay there and you think about, you know, we think about, and it's not generally even tied to people. We think about what's the worst that could happen. And we tend to think about this around midnight. Or whenever you go to bed. And you're laying in bed and you're staring at the ceiling. And all day long you've been busy doing things. And now you think, now what's the worst that could happen? How is my what's tomorrow going to look like, and will there be a dawn, and will there be fulfillment to my dreams? And there's nothing you can do about it right at that minute, nothing that you ought to do about it, like get up and get back to work. What should happen in that window of time is sleep, but we have all of this stuff jump up. Why? Because we haven't listened to it at other times, at more opportune times. Which brings me to this. There's a long list of self-care things that you can do. Physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You know what's not one of them? Procrastination. Procrastination is not self-care. Putting off, you know this, right? But I have to say it. And as always, when I'm saying stuff to you folks here and on camera, I'm saying it to myself. I'm reminding myself, procrastination is not self-care, because like anybody else, I can fall into thinking it is. How I know it's not self-care is because it never delivers the goods. In other words, I sit there and I don't do what I know I ought to be doing, and I say, well, I'm taking a break. But it's not a real break. It's not a fulfilling break. It's a haunted break. You ever do that? Okay, where it's like there's this thing hanging over you. There's this thing hanging over. Now, it's not possible all the time to keep busy and get stuff done well ahead of deadline and stay ahead of the curve and all of that. But procrastination weighs on us, makes us wait for our good, and brings us to a place where it is late at night now, where all of these kind of haunting thoughts occur and stuff, because we have not dealt with them. Deal with stuff. Deal with stuff when it comes up. A piece of advice I got in the work world was make a list of the things that you need to do. Now, everybody has their own theory, but this was make a list of the things you need to do and do the unpleasant stuff first. Have the difficult conversations first, so that from then on it's kind of on a downhill slope. Now, some people say they prefer doing the easy stuff first to work up the energy to do the difficult stuff. Another way of looking at it is shuffle the deck. Take the difficult stuff and the easy stuff and just shuffle them together and just pull something off the list and do it and get it accomplished and get it accomplished. And by getting it accomplished, the things I'm talking about aren't just like repetitive tasks like laundry and dishwashing and household chores and things. It's not even repetitive tasks like filling out your taxes or paying the bills or this. It's also the mental energy. It's also the interior inventory. Handle that stuff. Figure things out. When you realize you need to figure things out, sit down and think about things. Look hard at things. Ask yourself, okay, for me to accomplish this particular thing, what's the first step I need to take? What's the first thing I should do? And am I willing to do it? Do I need actually more information in this case? Then where might I go to get it? And start chipping away at it. Start gathering that information so that you have a clear space. Because otherwise what's going to happen, like I say, stuff will haunt you in the middle of the night. Also, it'll crowd your spiritual work out. Look, we teach meditation. Meditation is a Western tool as well as an Eastern tool. When it came to this country in the 1890s with Swami Vivekananda and the Vedanta Society, everybody lost their minds over it back then because it's like, whoa, this whole new thing. But it had been in the West for centuries, So we teach meditation. Do you meditate? Does anybody in the room meditate? Anybody online meditate? I see a hand or two. Good. Okay, good. Yeah. And we're not keeping a record. You don't have to worry about that. It's going to turn the camera around. See those hands again. When you try to meditate, when you go to meditate, when you go to meditate, you sit down and a whole menu of tasks appears in your mind. That's crowding your spiritual life. A whole menu of things that you probably aren't going to get around to doing anytime soon anyway. Big things like clean out the attic. Clean out the attic that you have no intention of doing. It's too hot now to clean out the attic. Okay? And it won't be a suitable time until maybe October. But when October comes, will your alarm be set to clean out the attic? Probably not, because it's a really big job. But here it appears on the top of the menu in your mind when you go to meditate. Why? You need to turn and face it. You don't have to clean out the attic for that item to leave the list. What you have to do is reconcile yourself to it not being on the list right now. Pare things back. Sometimes we want to succeed at everything all at once. I saw this ad the other day. It was in pounds sterling, so I had to translate, but it was a deal. Man, it was a deal. I'm not supposed to mention brand names on camera, so it was a language learning app that's very familiar to people, and you pay X amount of pounds, for this language or that language, and this thing was a lifetime subscription to as many languages as you want. Oh, God, I came close to signing up for this. I may yet, because it might be fun to learn Czech at some time. It might be Danish is where I'd want to start because it's my predominant heritage, but it would also be cool to learn Celtic. It would also be cool to learn Swahili. It'd also be cool to learn languages that nobody speaks anymore, just to know them, like, Latin, okay? Wouldn't that be great? And so I can obsess on this that's why I'm telling you this. I can obsess on this kind of stuff. And I can sign up for lifetime guitar lessons, and I can sign up for lifetime, and I can have all of this stuff, and I can make myself wrong until I really throw myself into it, but there aren't enough hours in the day. There aren't enough hours in a life, and so I have to prioritize, and all of us have to prioritize. Okay, now this sounds like really practical advice, and you may be sitting there chafing a little, thinking, he's talking to me like I'm an idiot, like I don't know this stuff. But it's part of our spiritual practice, too, because the ego, you see, the ego, it doesn't like it when you put it on full silent. And it tends to chafe, it tends to get antsy when you're thinking about higher ideas than just the temporal and the spatial. The ego starts tugging at your sleeve with things like the attic needing cleaning out and learning language, all this sort of stuff to improve your standing in the world or the quantity in your intellect. The ego interrupts because it feels left out. Now, it's selfish that way, the ego. It's a strange little thing, the ego. Because you see, the ego, we pay attention to it 23 hours and 59 minutes of the day. You turn away from it for 1 minute, and it's like, you've never loved me. You always ignore me. And we're like, no, I'm sorry, I checked out. I'm sorry I went into a space beyond space and time. I'm sorry I stopped serving your needs for a minute. And then it's, oh, okay, and I forgive you. And we develop this really unhealthy relationship with our own egos. We've been taught that the more information that we have, the more useful we are, the better citizens we are, the more productive we are. So we walk around crammed full of all of this information that gets in the way of direct knowing. Direct knowing of what? Direct knowing of the context of oneness, that there is one life, and that life is spirit, and that life is all the life there is. And everything is a representation of that life in some form or fashion. And when I recognize this, I tell you, I have my talks put together like 80, 90% when I get up here on Sunday, because I know that the last 10 to 20% is going to be furnished to me once I'm in the room, often by you. So I walk in today, and Danielle asked me about a certain song called Let There Be Peace on Earth, which we sing at the end of our services, and we'll shortly. Let there, the origin story of that song, and let there be peace on earth, it says, and let it begin with me. Let it begin with me? Me? The ego says, if the ego is the me, the ego says, look, you come to the wrong place. I can't possibly do all the heavy lifting for peace on earth. All of a sudden, the ego, which has been up to that point all proud of itself and confident and strong and filled with information, now starts backing and filling, and I can't do that. No, it can't. We can't figure out peace on earth, you and I, as individuals. We need a framing context that says there's a place in consciousness where there's never not been peace on earth. There's a place in consciousness where nothing has ever been wrong, where there's wholeness and one. You know, we don't invent oneness. We don't like, oh, okay, I'm going to agree that there's oneness now in the world, and all of a sudden it snaps into place. No, we recognize it. We recognize it. We recognize that we're part of one framing nature. And you can't separate out nature. So when we talk about self-care, what is the self we're talking about? It's the universal self, often styled with a capital S. And it doesn't mean a better version of you exactly. It's not like there's a higher self of you up here that is kind of above it all. It means that the universal self is all of us put together. There is one self. So if I have a knowing at one point within that self of oneness, it begins to permeate all the other forms of self that look like you, that look like everybody else. And we can't rank the selves, and we can't rate the selves. Not if we're truthful. I mean, we can, but it's not truthful to do that. It's not accurate to do that. Say, well, they're better people than other people, or smarter people, or prettier people, or any of the other kinds of things that we're sold on in the culture, any more than you can take nature, which is also a oneness and not separate from the universal self. You can't say a blade of grass is a superior form of nature to a cloud. It's ridiculous, right? They each have a separate function. They each have a separate function. The grass grows because it gets some sunlight and stuff and some rain from the cloud, and the cloud benefits somehow from I don't know, chlorophyll, or how they exchange energy in some way that's lost on me. I was never good at biology and stuff, botany, but it's there. You can look it up, how it all fits together. You know, Brian will tell you. Brian's back. He's a scientist. David Lemaster. Anyway, the point is that nature is one incomprehensible vast whole that is also fully present at every point within itself, just as consciousness is, just as the universal self is, fully present at every point within itself. And I got into this last week. I said if you go to Mars, and I told a story, maybe it was 2 weeks ago, the Mars mission people that are in training right now in an isolation thing. Well, you go to the Mars, or where, pick a far point. Pick a far point out in space, Crab Nebula, Andromeda, wherever. The line of sight, what they call the cosmic horizon, where light ends, until we go further out there, and then it moves. And there's light beyond that. Pick a point, and at that point, the fullness of spirit exists. The fullness of spirit exists. This is what we go to. Now, if you've tripped off on that, just as I was saying this, you had a little bitty meditation. Did you know that? You had a little bitty you kind of got the faraway look in your eyes, and you were thinking about, whoa, out in deep space, the fullness of spirit being present. That's a little bitty meditation. You take that and you plant that seed and let it germinate. You go into it, then it's a full-blown meditation. And your mind is in outer space. And your friends will call you spacey and say, you've gotten a little spacey lately, haven't you? But you also seem more untroubled. You also seem more uncluttered, you know? So, yeah, it's because you've engaged in a spiritual practice, and you've begun today with it. They, again, all say this. I brought you, this is Frances Lord again. This is what she says to begin every day. Some people who have heard all their lives, we are children of God, only begin to attach any meaning to the words on being told. The facts are that the all is the good. And as its children, we have godlike power of pronouncing the word. When we do this, the good thing comes into manifestation. This is the dominion spoken of in the first chapter of Genesis. We call it speaking our word. Somebody asked me one time, they said, what is the word? And they meant like it was a word, like a word made up of syllables and letters, like there was one specific word. And I thought that was kind of funny, but I didn't say so because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. It wasn't one of you. Or I would have. I would have laughed right in your face. Ah, ha, ha, ha. It's humorous, but it's not ridiculous that somebody would ask that question, because I don't think we explain it well enough, often enough, that the word is a package of energy. The word is a thought wrapped in feeling. And when we say the word, and she styles it with a capital W, it's sort of a biblical reference. Well, it is a biblical reference out of first chapter, Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the Word. Well, in the beginning of anything is the Word. You speak the Word. You speak the Word to conditions. What are you speaking? You're speaking in faith, believing the outcome that you desire to manifest, particularly at the level of feeling within yourself. This is the thing that we declare. So we say there's one life. That life is spirit. That life is all the life there is. That life is my life right now. Therefore, and then you see what it's there for. Then you fill in the blank. Therefore, thus and such is true for me. Today, I'm happy, I'm grounded, I'm centered. Today, I know what to do and how to do it. Today, I have trust and confidence in the process of life as I move forward. Today, I realize I don't need all the information supplied to me in advance, that things are going to fill in the blanks as I move along. Today, I recognize that thank you, Noel, am surrounded by godlings. I'm surrounded by beautiful, blessed godlings of every possible variety in this life. They make my life fulfilling and worthwhile and wonderful and enjoyable. And I'm surrounded by nature, and we are all a part of that, and so forth. And you go on in this vein. And when you get to the point in this declaration that you start running out of breath, or you start running out of feeling, and it turns into a document. You know what I mean? It turns in, and further, whereas the party of the first part, and you hear yourself droning. Stop already. Feel grateful for what you've done so far, and save it to your hard drive, which is in here. Okay? Save it to spirit. Release it into the law. You don't get one shot at this. You don't have to declare everything all in one fell swoop. And a lot of times we do. And you hear it in your mind, and it's like a little kid's letter to Santa. And I want this, and and I want that, and I want that. And you can picture Santa like, kid, come on. What do you want from me? How big do you think this sleigh is? Well, it's not like we're pushing the envelope with the delivery system that is spirit. It's that we're running out of gas within ourselves in terms of our acceptance of this. And there's a shortcut. And there's a shortcut. And this is hotly debated in metaphysics, whether or not this is an appropriate path to take. There's a shortcut. Seeking only for the knowledge of God's will and the power to carry it out. If one assumes that God's will is good for you, that there is good for you and you ought to have it, and you ought to have it right now, and that God's will is the way of delivering it, is the Tao of delivering it. It's not God's stern will or punishing will or that kind of thing. It's the process, okay? Then it's like the chef's surprise. Let's say you walk into a restaurant that you've been to often, and you know you like it. You know you like it. You like how they prepare your food. And you go in and you order stuff off the menu, and then you become kind of a regular, and you go in and they'll say, would you like to have the usual? This is very impressive to your friends if you bring friends to this restaurant. You know, ooh. Would you like the usual? Would you like what you usually have? And you take it, or you say, no, but bring me a menu. Let me see. I'm going to try something different. Okay. When you really trust the place, you walk in there and you say, what's the chef's surprise? Okay. And I realize this is not a perfect analogy because you may have dietary restrictions and allergies and stuff, but you play along with me here. Okay. So you go in and you say, what's the chef's surprise? And it won't make you sick, and it won't make you break out. This is the chef's surprise in spiritual life, is to say, I'm willing to trust. I know what I want. I know what I want. I know what I think I want. But maybe there's something different that will soothe my soul in a deeper way than I ever thought possible, and I'm willing to experience that. Is that playing a higher quality game? I don't know. It's, like I say, debated. But what you can do is kind of vacillate between the two. When you know what you want, and you know that you want it, and you know why you want it, and you're all clear on that, boom, then name it, call it. That job that you want to have, you know? You want to be in a relationship with a certain kind of person, okay? Then describe them into the subconscious mind. You have a pain in your body and you want your body to respond in a healthy way, then describe it into the subconscious mind. But if you don't know what you want or you're not sure, you have competing things, then just say, what does my soul at its deepest level crave? Because that is available to me right now, right now, right now. So the final takeaway for this is simply, however you've put together your spiritual practice, whether you are a newcomer to spiritual practice, as she refers to in her book, Frances Lord, the particular book I'm working out of, where she speaks a lot to the newcomers. So it's in 1888 she's giving this class. This is a transcription of the class, okay? So she's got a room full of newcomers. And so they ask newcomer kinds of questions. Well, if you're a newcomer to this whole thing of metaphysics, or you're not a newcomer to it, whatever it is, wherever you are in the process, however much you know, however much you feel you've forgotten along the way, start today. Start today. And if you need some words to help you kickstart, take any of these that you want, that are here to follow. There is one life, one power, one presence, one infinite, majestic, marvelous something that I think of as my higher power. Yet higher does not mean it's not here at floor level with me. It means a greater way of seeing and appreciating the context of life, wherein all is one. Now I feel this oneness. It moves as an intellectual concept down into an emotional embrace. All of nature is my nature. The world's self is myself. And I know that the Word initiates all things, so I speak this word from where I am as a godling of the infinite. That today is the start of something wonderful for me. I am guided to say and do just the right things. I'm guided to accept into my life information that's useful to me and release from my life anything that is not, that is outworn. No matter how useful it once was, if it's outworn now, I recycle it back into infinite mind for somebody else's use. It is easy for me to prioritize what I'm doing. It is easy for me to feel that I am enough as I do it, that nothing I do is going to add to my stature, for nothing needs to. I was and am and always will be enough just the way I am, no matter what anybody else thinks about me, says about me, does about me. I know I am enough. And as I regard all others, I recognize each other as enough, including those I don't understand, those I dislike, even those I fear. Everyone is working on something. Everyone is on this journey. Everyone is in process of self-discovery. And I recognize that sometimes this is messy, because it has been for me and may yet be. But still I trust. Because when I look around this world, I see love. I see peace. I see prosperity. I see happiness as the longed-for states, evident some places, apparently suppressed others, but as the longed-for state in every sentient being. So I start today with this word, and I let it unfold. And in deepest gratitude to that one life, that one power, that I think of as my mother, father, God, I let it be so, and so it is.
Time. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your love and energy. Thank you for your support. And thank you so much for your monetary donations. The gifts that you give to us is the reason why we can be here giving back to you. No matter what you give, no matter how big or small, we are so grateful for it, and it is truly appreciated. And I invite you now to say with me, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I am prosperous now, and so it is.
And I have something on my mind, so this is what we're going to treat for today. The wildfires in Canada, because one, they're really bad, and two, they are affecting like the upper 14 states up near them. I don't know if you've seen the apocalyptic pictures of New York, where New York turned orange from the wildfires. So people with breathing and lung issues are definitely having a bit of a go of it right now. So, and I saw the most beautiful video on, I think it was Instagram, of South African firefighters arriving in Canada to help with and they were singing, and it was just beautiful. And so just know that what I like to treat for is resource management. It's already happening. There are firefighters from all over the world coming to support the Canadians. So let's go into that always sacred space, but we are entering it consciously now. And know that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us live that life. We are that presence. That power flows through us. And most importantly, that love flows through us into this material world and does amazing things. And so we open up our hearts to the Canadian people as they face this challenge. And all of those in those states, in the northern states that are being affected by that cool winds come through, that rain comes through, that the firefighters coming in from all over the world have the easiest job possible in what they are doing, in getting these fires under control and out. And that the cool wind blows through, moving those particulates out of the air, so that everyone can take a nice deep breath, breathe in fully and comfortably. And we know that this works. We know that our love is made manifest in multiple and amazing ways that we are completely unaware of. So we hold these people, especially the firefighters, in our hearts and in our love, knowing that they are safe and doing their jobs. And we hold these people with the lung challenges in our hearts and in our arms, knowing that Spirit is with them and that they are breathing gently and comfortably. And as these temperatures keep going up, one, I encourage you to drink plenty of water, but that the resources are being made available for those who need to stay cool, who need a little extra water, that resource management is working as flawlessly as possible. And I am grateful. I am grateful to know this. I am grateful to see this in action. I am grateful to see this love in action. And I am grateful for this teaching that teaches me that I can have an effect on the world just by being me. And that you can have an effect on the world just by being the loving child of God that you are. And I am grateful for this community. I am grateful for our ministers. I am grateful for our practitioners. I am grateful for our musicians. I am grateful for this technology. And I am grateful for each and every one of you for the brilliant lights that you are. Keep shining. And I relax and release my word into law and love and know that it is so. And so it is.
With me. Say it with me now. Something wonderful is happening through me.
Something wonderful is happening through me.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my body.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in my mind.
I feel it in everything I am.
I feel it in everything I am.
I choose it.
I choose it.
I trust it.
I trust it.
I use it.
I use it.
And I love it.
And I love it.
And so it is.
So it is.
All right. Happy Sunday.
Yes, it was. Oh.
Happy Sunday.